Welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my guest today is City Councillor for Thunder Bay, Andrew Foulds. Welcome back, Andrew.
Thanks, Steve.
So let's get into some of the issues that you face as a City Councillor. I've had a number of elected officials on in the last little while, and the one thing we were talking about balance is how do we strike the right balance? It seems to me that a lot of the important decisions for the residents of Thunder Bay happen right here in Thunder Bay. But you've got limited ability to raise funds and limited jurisdiction in terms of what kind of decisions you can make. So what are some of the issues that you're really keen on or focused on as a representative of the people here in Thunder Bay?
Steve, I really appreciated your introduction there because you hit a number of points that are key. Just the first one there, in terms of the services that affect people almost on a daily basis or multiple times in a day are those municipal services. And garbage collection, plowing of water, parks, all those kinds of things. They have probably within every couple of hours an impact on citizens. As we're taping this show, we're going through our budget process, which is perhaps the greatest task that council has to undertake. And when I say that, it's the most serious, because really it's about the money, and that sets the direction for the next year in terms of what's going to get done. Both from a capital perspective, what are we going to build, and from an operational perspective, are we going to open the complex for as long as we have in the past. So we're in it. They're long nights, but critical nights. It's something that I take very, very seriously. Historically, there was a time where city councils passed 0% budgets, and we're kind of paying for that, and we have been paying for that. And so I believe that we should have incremental increases, not outrageous increases, but manageable increases so that we can maintain the services that people really, really want. The other thing that most people don't know is, unlike the provincial and federal government, we cannot run a deficit. All right, we cannot. And one of the challenges is, downloading services that both the federal and provincial government have sort of downloaded onto the municipality and our limited resources. There are really three things, if you don't mind, Steve, that I'd like to sink my teeth in. One thing that I'm really, really proud of is I'm the chair of the Earth Care Advisory Committee. We're one of only about 10 to 15 communities across the country that have a climate adaptation plan. And I'm really pleased at the support that we have both from City Council and the Mayor, but also within the corporation, to embed the principles of that climate adaptation throughout the business of the city. I think that's critical, and the citizens should be very proud of that we are really a leader in climate adaptation. And the reality is that 99.9% of scientists recognize that climate change is an issue. We see the impacts of that, more violent storms more regularly. And we have to build a municipality that is sustainable and that can cope with our changing environment, our changing climate. I'm very proud of that work. And that's an advisory committee, lots of citizen engagement there. The advisory committee and the working groups do Herculean work when it comes to making sure that we're doing what we need to do to be prepared. And that kind of leads me into, things like our investment in infrastructure. And we need to think differently about our infrastructure. It's not just about roads and paving roads. It's about building a robust infrastructure that takes in different types of transport. I'm very proud of my ward of the, active living corridor on Arundel, where, it's built for rollerbladers, walkers, cars, cyclists, and we're building in, safety into that corridor. We're dealing with stormwater management. We have low impact developments being put in all over the city to deal with flash flooding. I mean, we do remember what happened in 2012 and how some parts of our community were very vulnerable to significant damage. We are also making that kind of investment to close that infrastructure gap, which is important so that we have this robust infrastructure for citizens, which in turn drives our economy.
Let me go back to
Yep.
the active living corridor.
Yeah.
I think if I got the right language on Arundel.
Yep.
You know, these things are new in the city. You know, to have space on the road that you share for people to walk or bike or rollerblade or whatever. Now that they're in place, are we seeing increased use? Like, how do we know whether they're actually going to be used? Like, in our mind, we're thinking, hey, this is a good idea. How do we measure whether it really is a good idea, whether people really use those?
So, yeah, they're new to Thunder Bay, but they're not new. These kinds of facilities on roads exist around the world in progressive countries that want to get people out of cars and in other modes. So your point, though, is how do we make sure that they're working? And we do benchmark data collection on usage of bike lanes. And the evidence suggests two things. One, when you have bike facilities, there are more bikers. And two, there are fewer collisions. So the other thing, too, is we found in a couple of locations that we weren't getting the kind of results that we wanted, and we were getting feedback from neighborhoods. So we don't lock our horns. We modify going forward to make sure that the facility meets the needs of the citizens. So we do that data collection because you're right. We're talking about precious public dollars. And they need to be treated with respect. And so you can't just do something and sort of, it's going to work. We need to measure that, and we do that. And the evidence is looking pretty good across the city, you know, where these new facilities are being put. But the other thing that we're doing is we're putting a lot of these facilities and connecting hubs within the city. Another thing that is really sort of important to me and I'm passionate about is parks and active living. And so we're connecting these different things. You know, I've mentioned the budget. I think it's pretty slippery slope when, you know, we're trying to get our budgets down, and it really does seem like the first thing that gets cut are parks. And I don't support that. A city is much more than just roads. There's these quality of life things that I think are important. Investment in youth getting into parks, seniors getting into parks. I just think that we should be very proud of our park system. We need to treat it with respect and also maintain them ongoing. So, you know, I would say those three things in terms of issues, you know, the infrastructure, the sustainability plan, the climate adaptation, and parks and recreation opportunities for our citizens. Those three things I'm sort of really passionate about. I'm passionate about other things too, but those things really resonate with me.
We're going to need to take a short break.
Sure.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back.